Hollywood stars, former castmates, long-standing friends, and devoted fans paid their ultimate tribute to Malcolm-Jamal Warner, a guy who had grown up in the spotlight and remained revered. But nobody was ready as an old, shaking person cautiously approached the speaking area. Bill Cosby. Cosby stood in front of my TV son's casket with two attendants, one on each arm, and looked out over the crowd with tears in his eyes. Cosby returned to speak about Malcolm despite the trials, convictions, and scandals of the years. "I knew this young man before he grew a beard," he said, cracking his voice. "My boy, a son of spirit, was what I called him before the world named him a star." Cosby told up about their closeness on set, private talks, joking between sets, and watching Malcolm cry over rejection, grief, and Hollywood pressure, drawing gasps. He added, "This business can kill you." Yet he stood tall. He passed through fire without feeling the smoke. Cosby brought more than love and memories to the funeral. His speech immediately darkened, something nobody expected at such a terrible time. Cosby said, "And yet people didn't protect him," with a serious face. He left after gossip, hazards, and pressures. Others were thoughtless, not him. The room went silent. People looked uncomfortably at each other. Was Cosby hinting that Malcolm's death wasn't accidental? Someone or something caused it. Even Felicia Rashad, in the front row, reportedly bowed her head and closed her eyes to prepare for what came next. One last line from Cosby. "Theo, forgive us wherever you are. No one could save you." A flood of tears. Actors, executives, and preachers were seen wiping their eyes, even the calmest. Beyond the sadness, a deeper sensation remained. Suspicion. Something about Malcolm's death felt wrong. Cosby had opened an unwelcome box. Felicia Rashad, who played Malcolm-Jamal Warner's mother on Cosby, spoke out after Cosby's cryptic funeral comments rocked the globe. She shocked Hollywood and beyond with her words. Days later, Rashad attended a private media room interview after remaining calm throughout the funeral. Instead of a major TV network, she worked with a trusted journalist. Reason: she needed to talk freely. Truth: no filters, no cameras. Malcolm probably sensed something was coming from her first statement. Though silent, he spoke enough. World listened intently. Felicia told everyone they had a long phone call 7 days before Malcolm's drowning, atypical in their busy lives. He called late at night, fatigued and distant, yet wanting to communicate. Rashad said Malcolm opened the conversation with a terrifying sentence. "If anything ever happens to me, I just want you to know I love you, Mama." She was surprised. She laughed it off at first, thinking it was just Malcolm being emotional, but what followed wiped the smile off her face. Malcolm admitted he'd been under pressure from certain executives and old associates trying to drag him back into situations he had long walked away from. People from the past were suddenly reaching out, and not with friendly intentions. He said, "They want me to stay quiet, but I can't do that anymore." Felicia asked him what he meant, but he only responded with, "You'll see. It's going to come out soon." She pushed him to explain, begged him not to go down a path that could put him in danger, but he avoided the topic, laughing gently and changing the subject. Still, his tone never got better. There was weight in his words, a quiet heaviness that hadn't been there before. Rashad then dropped the biggest bombshell. "I believe Malcolm was getting ready to expose something. He didn't tell me exactly what, but he was scared, not for his career, for his life." That one statement changed everything. It changed how people thought about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death. Was it really a tragic accident or something more evil? Was he, as Cosby suggested, let down by those who should have protected him? And what exactly did he plan to expose before he died? Rumors began to spread that Malcolm had recorded files, old emails, and contracts tied to Hollywood deals that were never supposed to see the light of day. Some people suggested he had dirt on major executives, while others claimed he had grown tired of the entire industry and had been getting ready to leave it behind for good. Whatever the truth was, Felicia Rashad's confession only added more fuel to a fire that wasn't going out anytime soon. Because now it wasn't just fans feeling sad, it was the beginning of an investigation. As the days passed after Malcolm-Jamal Warner's shocking death, the public began to accept the official story. Accidental drowning while on a solo retreat. But for many people, including close friends, former co-stars, and even members of Malcolm's own family, something about the story never made sense. Let's break it down and expose the shocking problems in the official police story. According to the first report, Malcolm checked into a secluded lakeside cabin resort just outside of Vancouver. Security footage shows him arriving around 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday, parking his rented SUV and unloading groceries in a duffel bag. The staff said he seemed tired, but polite. His usual mellow self, as one front desk employee put it. By Friday morning, he was spotted on the dock sipping coffee alone, writing in a leather-bound notebook, a routine that seemed peaceful. But by Saturday morning, his body was discovered in the water, face down near the rocks by the far end of the dock. No signs of struggle, no signs of trauma. Official cause of death? Suffocation due to accidental drowning. Sounds neat, right? But here's where it gets suspicious. Problem number 1, the missing call logs. Malcolm's phone was recovered, water damaged, but not completely destroyed. Digital experts managed to get parts of his call and text history from the cloud. What they found was chilling. At 11:03 p.m. Friday night, just hours before his body was found, Malcolm had tried to call 3 people back to back. One was his former publicist, another an unnamed contact saved only as LL, still unidentified. The third was Felicia Rashad. All calls went unanswered. But the problem, none of these calls were mentioned in the official police report. Why? How could that detail such a critical piece of his final hours be left out? Problem number 2, no footage, no witnesses. The cabin resort had several security cameras, especially at the dock, where guests often go to fish or relax. Yet strangely, there is no footage of Malcolm leaving his cabin after sunset on Friday. If he walked down to the water alone, why isn't there video? Officials claim the cameras weren't recording at the time due to a technical failure, a coincidence, or something more deliberate. Problem number 3, the locked cabin. When the cleaning staff entered Malcolm's cabin Saturday morning, just before the body was found, they noted the door was locked from the inside. How did he leave the cabin if the door was bolted? Was there a second exit, or was someone else with him that night? These gaps aren't just small errors, they're massive cracks in the story. And what's worse, an anonymous employee at the cabin resort contacted an independent journalist 2 days after the funeral and claimed that someone came that night asking for Malcolm. The guest reportedly wore a black hoodie, didn't sign in, and left within 10 minutes. Security was told not to question him. That person's still unaccounted for. So, here's the burning question. Was Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death really an accident? Or was it a message? Was he silenced because of what he knew? Was someone trying to prevent the truth he warned Felicia Rashad about from ever coming out? And if so, who has something to lose? As the memorial service reached its most tender moment, it was Bill Cosby himself who took the stage slowly, solemnly, and visibly shaken. At 87 years old, the legendary comedian appeared far more fragile than fans had remembered. But as he approached the podium, a silence fell across the room. Every eye fixed on the man who had once mentored Malcolm-Jamal Warner as if he were his own blood. And when Cosby began to speak, his voice cracked, not from age, but from heartbreak. "I didn't just watch Malcolm grow up on television," he said. "I watched him grow into a man, into an artist, into a soul that lit up every room. He was more than Theo. He was my son." Those words hit like a thunderclap. There was no script, no jokes, no showmanship, just a father figure mourning the loss of someone who'd been a vital part of his life for over 4 decades. Cosby thought back on their early years filming The Cosby Show, how Malcolm would memorize not only his lines, but everyone else's just in case something went wrong. He spoke about Warner's discipline, his quiet strength, and he was. Now he'd call Bill even in recent years just to check on him, despite Cosby's own damaged public image. "Malcolm never turned his back on me," Cosby revealed. "Even when the world did, he stayed. He reached out. He reminded me what family really is." He paused. The silence was deafening. "And now he's gone." Just like that. Cosby looked down, visibly fighting back tears. Then he continued, "They say a man lives twice. Once when he's born and again when he's remembered. If that's true, then Malcolm will live forever. In every laugh, every line, every heart he touched." The crowd was in tears. Even those who had long since distanced themselves from Cosby found themselves moved by his raw humanity. This wasn't just a tribute. It was an emotional reckoning, a final goodbye between a father and his TV son. And if that wasn't enough, Cosby left the audience with one final line that shook the entire venue. "If I could trade places with him, I would. That's how much I loved him." The room erupted in sobs. No one expected such vulnerability. No one expected Cosby to break down like that in public, but he did. And that moment became the headline heard around the world. "Bill Cosby breaks down over Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death. He was my son." But that wasn't the only moment that would leave fans speechless. As the memorial wound down, most guests had begun to quietly file out of the cathedral, leaving behind the soft notes of a lone piano and the scent of fresh lilies still lingering in the air. But near the front, where Malcolm-Jamal Warner's casket rested, draped in white roses and photos from his life, one figure remained rooted in place. A woman with trembling hands and eyes full of unspoken pain. It was none other than Karen Molina White, Malcolm's longtime ex-girlfriend and a fellow actor who had once shared both the screen and real-life memories with him. Though the two had split many years ago, their relationship had been widely known in the industry as one of the few Hollywood romances that was sincere, private, and deeply emotional. But no one expected what would happen next. As the room emptied out, Karen slowly walked up to the casket, her hand gently on the polished wood, and whispered something no one saw coming. Yet, someone nearby recorded every word. "You were the one. You've always been the one." She broke down. Sobs shook her shoulders as she leaned over the casket. "I'm sorry we didn't make it work. I thought we had more time. I thought we'd get one more chance." Those standing near the front, including Keisha Knight, Pulliam, and Felicia Rashad, were visibly shaken. It wasn't just grief. It was the type of soul-breaking regret only the closest hearts feel when they've lost someone too soon. And then came the words that would go viral by evening. "I never stopped loving you, Malcolm. Never. I hope you knew that." Cameras may have been off, but whispers spread like wildfire. Karen's confession set off a ripple of reactions across social media. Fans flooded old photos of the couple with messages like, "She's always loved him. You can see it in every picture." This is the kind of heartbreak that never heals. Hollywood romances fade, but this was real. Later that evening, Karen released a short statement on Instagram. A simple black and white photo of Malcolm smiling with the caption, "I never got to say goodbye the way I wanted to. You were my peace before this world became too loud. Rest easy, my love." The post got over 2 million likes in under 10 hours. As the curtain closed on this emotional tribute, it became clear Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just a brilliant actor or a beloved son of television. He was a man who left a crater-sized hole in the hearts of those who truly knew him, loved him, and never got the closure they deserved. His death may have shocked the world, but it also brought up the raw, tender truths behind the image he projected, including a love that had never died, a father figure forever mourning, and fans who finally realized how deeply he was cherished behind closed doors. Rest in power, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, 1970 to 2025. You were more than Theo. You were a son, a brother, a lover, a friend, and you will never be forgotten. Celebrity story script, simplified version. Note, this is a fictional story for creative writing purposes only. He stood there shaking, a famous person saying goodbye to another famous person. When Bill Cosby walked up to the microphone at Malcolm-Jamal Warner's funeral, nobody knew what would happen next. Tears ran down his face as he told everyone a scary truth that no one had ever heard before. And right then, even the cameras couldn't show how important his words were. But what did Cosby say? And why did his words make even the strongest people in the room go quiet? The friendship between Bill Cosby and Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just something they pretended for TV. It was real, personal, and built over many years of love, teaching, and shared problems. From the moment they met on The Cosby Show, Malcolm wasn't just someone who worked with him. He became like a son. And when news came out that Malcolm had suddenly died, the world was shocked, but nobody, absolutely nobody, was more upset than Bill Cosby himself. What happened at the private funeral surprised even the people closest to the family. Cosby didn't just feel sad. He spoke from a place of real pain, sharing deep regrets, hidden memories, and the dark side of being famous that followed them both. His speech wasn't written ahead of time. It was real. And for many people, it finally showed how close the two really were, and how bad things had gotten behind the scenes. In today's video, we're going deep. You'll hear stories that nobody has heard before from people inside the funeral, see reactions from co-stars like Felicia Rashad and Tempest Bledsoe, and learn about Malcolm's last days, including scary details many people tried to keep secret. You won't believe what Bill Cosby said in that speech and why it made so many people cry. This is where it gets emotional, real, and shocking. So stay with us, you. Until the end, you'll want to hear everything. From the very beginning of The Cosby Show, Bill Cosby took young Malcolm-Jamal Warner under his wing, not just as someone who worked with him, but as a father figure. Malcolm, who was only 14 when he first played Theo Huxtable, quickly became the heart and soul of the Huxtable family on TV. But behind the scenes, their friendship was even stronger. People from the TV show often talked about how Cosby would spend hours with Malcolm after filming, teaching him about the television business, personal branding, and most importantly, how to act like a young black man in a world that often doesn't forgive mistakes. Cosby saw good things in Malcolm. He treated him like the son he always wanted, and Malcolm gave back that loyalty with love and respect. In a 2012 interview, Malcolm even said, "Bill taught me how to be a man, not just how to act like one on TV." But as the years went on and bad stories started to surround Cosby, their friendship was quietly hurt. Malcolm, who built a clean and respected reputation in Hollywood, began to stay away from him in public, not because he hated him, but to protect himself. Still, people who were close to both men say their emotional connection never really went away. So, when news came out that Malcolm had sadly died at just 54 years old, in what some people are still calling a mysterious drowning accident, Cosby reportedly fell down in sadness. Sources say he kept whispering, "Not my Theo. Not my Theo." What happened next, nobody expected. Bill Cosby, weak, old, and very emotional, asked to speak at the funeral, and what he said would leave the entire room frozen in silence. The church was packed, cameras were kept out, but inside the feeling was electric with sadness, confusion, and a scary sense of ending.